Welcome to All Things Rex. It's another Thursday, and I'm here today, as we are every Thursday, with a fabulous and an absolutely amazing guest. It's the amazing Jonathan Royle. He's an international celebrity. He's a hypnotherapist. He is a success coach, a psychological illusionist, and a master of mind control techniques. And we're going to be talking about all those things with Jonathan. But before we do, let me tell you that he's also a clown. And I don't take that, I don't mean that figuratively. I mean that literally. And I'm going to let him tell you about his upbringing and his entertainment family growing up. So with no further ado, Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Rex. Well, it's evening for me here in England anyway. It's afternoon for you guys out there.
Well, just so the audience knows, wherever they're listening from or watching from, it might be different, but where you are and where people watching in your neck of the woods, it's 6 hours later than what it is here. So you are the trooper. I have it easy.
Oh dear. Well, thanks for having me on, Rex. Yeah, you mentioned I'm a clown, and yes, that is, well, I was a clown. I suppose you could argue I still am. It's just that I don't these days wear the red nose and the clown's makeup anymore. But I was born on the circus here in England, a circus called Gandhi's Circus, that in England for numerous times in the past has been voted the best circus show in England. And that was 1975. My parents were traveling, performing on the circus. My dad, a circus clown, and also did a yogi act, as they call it. So a bed of nails, lying on a bed of nails, going up a ladder of daggers, fire eating, and all those yogi kind of East Indian fakir stunts that you see the East Indian mystics do. He was doing that in the circus ring, and my mum was doing, under the stage name Marianne Montana, a sharp shooting, whip cracking, rope spinning, cowgirl western type act. And that's the weird background I was born into. But for me, it was my normal, so to speak. And at the age of 3.5, I became Britain's youngest professional paid circus clown under the name Flap. So it was Flap the Clown for me, Tizzy the Clown, my dad's name, because there's a saying, certainly in England, when people get panicky or mithered or confused about something, they're all in a tizzy. And some people also say sometimes, oh, they've got a right Flap. So it was Tizzy and Flap, the clowns. And I grew up doing that, and that kind of set me, it was that set me on the performance journey, but it was that set me on the personal development journey as well, bizarrely, because I'd go to different schools as we travelled around with the circus, and ultimately, the vast majority of the time, I was a target for bullying, because I was perceived as the odd one out. I was the circus kid, the stranger, and I was being featured in the national media and on TV, and so adults at that time say to you, oh, don't worry, they're just jealous because you're getting attention, and sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And whoever came up with that saying needs shooting, because physical wounds heal, and you may be left with a scar, but it fades over time, whereas the psychological impact and wounds of the repetition daily, numerous times a day, of insults and verbal psychological bullying cut far deeper and can have, very nearly did for me, but can for some people have devastating effects to the point of even pushing them to suicide. And to be honest, when I was I think I was about 12. I don't remember exactly. I might have been 11 or a little bit over 12. But it's around that era. It was one evening, at the time of year here in England, when it kind of got dark at 5 o'clock in the evening, I went and lay down in the middle of the busiest main road in Haywood, knowing full well that if I was laid down, I I think you worked it out. I figured I was going to get killed. This road, you could barely cross it. It was a death trap of a road. But bizarrely, I lay there for what seemed like forever, which was probably only a minute. Time, can stretch or can also speed up when you're really enjoying yourself. But when you're worried, stressed, tense, or not enjoying something, it can seem to be longer than it is sometimes. So I don't know exactly how long I was later, but I was later, and in the end, I got fed up of waiting. I stood up and started to make my way back towards the pavement, and as I put my foot on the pavement, a big, massive truck just whooshed past, and it was like, whoa, what's going on? That could have been you. And it was kind of a wake-up call that, thank God, I haven't just killed myself, even though I was in a frame of mind that I wanted to. But then suddenly I wasn't. And it made me realize I needed to do something to sort this state of mind out. And because as I was growing up, I'd started to, I suppose you could say, rebel against my dad, because I kind of blamed my dad. I figured that the reason I was getting bullied is because he made me be a circus clown on the circus. So I started to rebel and figure if I could stop being a circus clown, then maybe the bullying would stop. So I was getting paid to be a circus clown, but my hobby, which I didn't get paid for at that time, and by that time I mean up to about the age of 8 or 9, was magic, conjuring tricks, David Copperfield style magic. No, I'm not talking devil worshipping or anything like that. I mean conjuring tricks, rabbit from the hat, that kind of stuff. And I figured, well, hang on, I want to carry on performing, because by then I kind of got addicted to an audience clapping at the right times, laughing at the right times, an audience's appreciation. Because I was getting bullied at school and stuff, it made me feel bad. I suppose you could say that the audience's feedback was the kind of feedback that made me feel those things that as human beings we want to feel and need to feel, so I felt a state of feeling loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished and valued, the things that make you feel worthwhile. And I kind of got that energy from performing in front of audiences. But by the same token, I was conflicted because I didn't want to be doing the clowning, because I figured that's why I was getting bullied, because I was the circus clown's son and also a clown. So I by the time I was about 8 or 9, started to refuse as often as I could to do any of the clowning, and instead did performance pieces that were involving magic. Actually, I was lucky that I was in an environment where I could actually start professionally performing straight away, doing that had previously been a hobby. So it went from one performance thing to another. So I was still getting the feedback from an audience, albeit from a different performance art. And I hoped that now that I didn't have the red nose and the makeup and stuff, that I wasn't a clown, that the bullying would stop. But he didn't. Because I was still performing, and thus I was still getting in the media and stuff, and I was still the target of jealousy looking back on it, or just confusion perhaps from other kids my age who couldn't understand what's this all about, why are you doing that, something out of the ordinary.
Could I ask you a question? Because
Gosh, yeah,
2 things. One is, it's amazing that so much bullying occurs with children. I mean, first off, that's usually where we confront, our first bullies is our peers and people around us. So, and it's amazing how heartless and cruel sometimes children can be, obviously, and the effect that it has on people is no secret much anymore. Although we're still dealing with those issues, now with social media and the internet and computers and phones.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's really going on in many different ways. So the question that I have for you, and I'm going to posit something first, and then ask a related question. You said I was a clown, and I was getting bullied, and I also did magic, and I started to rebel against being a clown. By the way, I think I don't know how long you clowned, but I've done clowning once. I did a clown one time, put on the makeup, the big flappy shoes, and
About 5 years. But bearing in mind, I was doing roughly 2 shows a day, sometimes 3 shows a day, at
it
least 6
takes
days a
more
week.
energy than anything I've ever done in my life. Almost was to be a clown. It was the most exhausting day of my life. Yeah. So to do 2 shows a day, to be a clown for 5 years is no small feat. Just so people know. Plus, you endured the bullying. But here's my posit. That is the notion that things don't happen to us; they happen for us. You talk about going out and lying down on this busy road and attempting to kill yourself, and then having a change of mind or heart and getting up and thinking, "Thank God I didn't do it." But had it not been for the bullying, you wouldn't necessarily be who you are today. You wouldn't have maybe gone into the personal development field. Maybe you'd done something. Maybe you would have. But what I'm getting at is it's kind of like, thank goodness that whatever the cause was, that you found that you could transform or you could change or you could heal from circumstances that originally, especially when you were a child, were difficult. Is that fair to say?
You hit the nail entirely on the head. Although I'm not certain I'd necessarily use the word heal, because it implies almost getting to a state of perfection. I've never liked the word heal or healing unless it's in some specific circumstances. Because I think that even when we've kind of overcome massive obstacles in life, I think there's still, to some degree, daily, we have to, although it can end up happening on autopilot, fortunately, through repetition, but to some degree, we have to continue working on ourselves. It's not like put something right. I think the word heal implies you put something right and then that's it. I think it's like with gardening, that you've got to keep watering the plants every day, which I know you very much think that way, because in your excellent book, it does kind of make a similar analogy to that.
Well, I'm really glad that you say that, because I do think many people get the idea that I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a program, a workshop. I'm going to go to a hypnotist. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go to church. And I'm going to be radically transformed so that I no longer have any problems, any issues, anything, instead of understanding that we have an incredible journey in life as a process. So it doesn't mean if you're healing that you're healed and that it's all done, but that you're in the process of healing.
Yes.
We're in the process of living. We don't.
I like that word process far better, because it's continual. And it could be that you're on a fantastically level playing field when you've got yourself right for weeks, months, maybe even years. But as sure as eggs is eggs, as my old grandmother used to say, there will be a time something unexpected will happen again in your life at some point. Maybe a loved one passing away unexpectedly, losing your job, massive. There'll be something that knocks the status quo, and if you haven't kept watering the plant, so to speak, keeping yourself positively framed, if you just went into that, I've sorted it and now I can just get on with life kind of attitude, then the chances are it will knock you back negatively, more so than it needed to. Whereas if you keep watering the plant, positive affirmations is one example, but affirmations on their own, as you well know, and not enough. You do have to take action yourself and do things in the right way. But yeah, it's a constant thing, and I was fortunate. I agree, I suppose, that without those experiences, I wouldn't now have the frame of mind I do now. Albeit that obviously the next step was that from there I had to work out, what do I do? Because this killing myself malarkey didn't work. I couldn't even get that right, type of thing. And it was by sheer fate, or maybe some may say it's the fact that I started focusing on trying to find a solution, that maybe my reticular activating system, the RAS, maybe started looking for the opportunities and the answers. But the way I remember it is that I used to go into the adult library section of libraries when I went to them, because the magic books they had in the kids section they're all basic and fine for kids. Now, I was a kid age-wise, but I'd had private tuition in magic, and by the time I was 12, I was doing really complicated sleight of hand. I was doing an act producing doves from silks and things. In America, there's a gentleman that listeners, viewers may have heard of in the past called Lance Burton, who did a dove production type. I was doing that kind of thing, nowhere near as well as Lance did, I've got to say, but I was doing that kind of thing. And so I was looking at the magic books in the adult library. And lo and behold, and it's still the same to this day. So I was 12 then, I'm 30. I'm not, I wish I was. That was a Freudian slip. I'm 46 now, 47 this August. So it was a lot of years ago. But it's still the same with the way they label up books in British libraries, at least. Where the sports and pastime section was, which is where they had the magic books and conjuring books and whatnot. To the right-hand side, the next shelf, was the popular psychology and self-help section. And I'd never noticed this before. And I'm getting, I think it was Walter B. Gibson's illustrated book of close-up magic, a big, massive book of sleight of hand techniques off the shelf. And as I'm pulling that off, my eyes were drawn to the right. And I saw the spine of this book, and it said, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I thought, oh, this is a sign. Because immediately I thought, if this book teaches you how to win friends and influence people, surely that means there's stuff in there that can stop me getting bullied when I go to these, to school. Because I'll be able to influence people, stop them doing it, and win them over as friends. Got it, read it, started to try out some of the stuff. And unfortunately, sorry, just slightly itchy ear there from the earphone. Unfortunately, I soon discovered that what works with adults doesn't necessarily work with children. That was the first lesson I learned. The second thing I very quickly learned is that despite it says in that book that a person's name is to them the sweetest word in the English language, or their language, obviously, that there's two major omissions in that book. Number one, that again doesn't particularly work with kids. And number two, it doesn't actually work that well for adults, except maybe in some sales scenarios or business scenarios. But in everyday life, if you go into a liquor bar or or a public entertainment venue, and you meet somebody you never met before, and you find out their name, let's say they're called Michael, and then every sentence you throw, yes, Michael, this, or what's actually likely to happen is you're likely to get punched in the face.
Well, let me ask you something. I want to do two things. One is I want to pause for a second, because I want to remind viewers, because I did not say this, that you can leave comments and you can ask questions of Jonathan while we're on the show. So if you're watching from Facebook Live, the Facebook Tribune page, you can actually ask. There have been comments that have been showing up on the screen from viewers, but if you have a question for Jonathan, you can also ask the question. This is also available in replay, so I encourage you to share the show with people if you want to invite people to watch live while we're here. But otherwise, also help share the show and like the show and do those things that people can see. My fabulous guest today, the amazing Jonathan Royle. Jonathan, let me ask you this. I mean, or let me comment about the name thing. You could call me anything. I've told people for all of my life, you can call me jerk, you can call me for whatever. I don't care. It doesn't really faze me that much. If you use my name in a conversation, I didn't pick it. That I'm aware of. They gave me that name, so it's just some label that somebody stuck on me as a kid. Mm-hmm. That said, I would submit that one of the reasons why, and it could have been a cultural thing at the time, but one of the reasons why we're taught to say the name is to pay attention to the other person. As opposed to thinking about ourselves, we're saying, "Oh, well, Jonathan, what would you think about this?" And that's right, Jonathan. And how do you and what would you say about that, Jonathan? In other words, it's more of a focus for me to put on you. If you don't like hearing your name, you might say, "Wait, but I don't go by that name. call me something else instead, or just stop using my name. But otherwise, it's still getting my attention on you as opposed to on me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth in that, but in the context, and there's questions starting to pop
There
up,
is a
but I'll happily
question.
answer it. In the context of what I was saying, which was at school, it didn't work, and it doesn't. My message is that a lot of stuff in, I'm going to call it self-help book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's actually more of a businessy sales book, that particular one, but it still applies with self-help books as well. There's a lot of really good self-help books out there, but there's a few problems. One of them is that often there's not enough clarity about the context within which you can or cannot successfully use the techniques, or there isn't enough examples of how to use it differently in different scenarios. So people sometimes take things way too literally and can be unfortunate enough to encounter the wrong type of situation. So they get a perceived failure too rapidly and give up too quickly because they come to a state of mind that it isn't going to work for them, where in actual fact it probably would do in a different situation. Because the truth is, there is nothing on this planet, and this includes even, and I'm saying, I always say things to people, this includes everything in Rex's book, everything that's in any of my books. There's nothing that works 100% of the time with 100% of the people. However, and I'm going to say Rex's book again, it will work 100% of the time with 100% of the people in the right contexts, in the right environments, when they use the things in the right, with some applied common sense, unfortunately, I feel myself having to say, because common sense isn't quite as common as it perhaps should be. And also, obviously, going back to what you said before, people have actually got to get off, excuse the word, their arse, or the backside, the butt, as I believe they say in America, and actually start doing something, put things into action. So segueing, because we'll keep weaving in and out.
Well, and I want to ask you a question before you answer the question.
Okay.
Because you are prolific in terms of self-help programs, videos, things that people can do at home, books, and that kind of thing. You're known as an NLP, or you're known as a hypnotist. You're known in all these different arenas, and as a coach, and you're effective in what you do. So what do you recommend to people? I mean, I know you're doing this, but how do you recommend to people that they get over some of those things that they otherwise would live with? They may not get over it. Let's go back to the process of healing.
I'll get it to a level that it doesn't bother them in the way it once did in the past, and allows them to move forward more freely. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, and this is going to sound really counterproductive, because I'm sure the viewers and listeners will think, well, hey, this is the perfect opportunity for Jonathan Royle to now pitch us one of his products and sell us stuff. And that's exactly what I'm not going to do. Because when it comes to the actual you as an individual, overcoming a habit, addiction, a fear, or a phobia, or an emotional issue, or pretty much anything you can think of from A through to Z, my first answer when anyone contacts me is to say, yeah, go on my website, magicalguru.com, click on the bit where it says therapy, but on your first ever visit, ignore the bit where I'm telling you how much it'd cost to book a session with me on Zoom or in person. Totally ignore that and just scroll down the page, and about the third video down, after the two explaining what hypnotherapy is and how it works, there is a free, virtual, interactive, online hypnotherapy, some will call it. I call it complete mind therapy, which is just really my name that I came up with for taking what I consider to be the best bits of NLP, the best bits of creative visualization, the best bits of suggestion therapy, aversion therapy, pros and cons, literally every type of psychological talking therapy you can think of. I went around and found the bits that resonated with me and helped me, took them all and then put them together into this sandwich, if you like, of 10 techniques. And I put the session together in a way where I don't say anyone's name. So I'll say, I'm talking to you now, visualize in your mind's eye. It goes through various things. And everything's structured so that you are able to fill in the blanks as you go along. And by filling in those blanks, it will mean that in actual fact, although this is a generic, virtual, online interactive treatment session, that because of the way it's structured, you, by filling in those blanks, will be doing so from a position of what genuinely happened to you in your life, or what you genuinely would like to have happen to you in your life, or at least what you've dreamed about and felt as a true feeling on an emotional level within you. So it will make it 100% specific, personal, relevant, and empowering to you. And it's structured so that there's a section where you do a visualization with a television set, and you see an image of yourself in the past as with those problems or issues that you want to say goodbye to forever. And we go through what in NLP they call altering the modalities, but we turn down the volume and the brightness, and we make the image fade away, and then you turn off the television set, and then you unplug it from the wall, and then you destroy it so it can never bother you again like it once did in the past, in the most dramatic, bizarre way you can. So I'll give you examples, like maybe you want to use a chainsaw and slice it up, or maybe you want to get a massive plane to fly over with a big bomb and drop it on the TV. It's so that you get a mental image that is bright and vivid and a bit crazy, because the crazier and mad it is, the better, because that will also elicit an emotional connection. And so it deals with kind of getting rid of those negative connections, but then there's also things like looking at a magic mirror in a way that feels calm, safe, and secure for you, seeing an image of yourself in the future pacing, as you know we call it, as the perfect you, without that used to bother you in the past, and then walking towards that and realizing it's like a magic mirror, because you can start to melt into it, and as you do, you sort of feel flooded positively with energy from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers, from your head to your toes. And it's like you're putting on a suit of armor, stepping into that perfect you in the future. So we do some like future pacing work in there. And we also do things with measuring sticks in the mind eye for confidence and willpower, self-esteem, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It becomes self-explanatory when you look at it. And it's completely free of charge. And the vast majority of people who contact me asking for one-to-one treatment, I send them to that page, the therapy page. I say, look at that video, do what it says, and then if you do want to invest anything, invest a minimal sort of $20 in the audio MP3 backup thing. Listen to it every day for 28 days, a lunar cycle. It takes 28 days for something to become kind of fully formed, habit-wise. And that should be all you need, as long as you take action. And here's the thing, what I found from experience is the people that it doesn't work for are the ones that don't do the process for the full 28 days. They give up part way and they don't fully commit, not surprisingly. So the key is to do something, whether that's going track, and do more than one thing as well. You do that and you may feel fantastic from it afterwards and it improves your life immensely. But the thing is, it's not going to be a cure-all for everything. It will have positive repercussions, because when you feel good in one area, it gives you more positivity and confidence in all the other areas of your life. Of course it does. But it's not a journey that should stop then. And it's not a journey where you should ever find yourself just one guru. I don't like the word guru, but I'm using that because it gets thrown around. You should have, and neither should you get addicted to seminars or buying products either. There should be a happy medium. I'm going to say a magic figure to me is always to have like half a dozen people that I kind of at any one time will be studying books of or programs of, and they will change during the course of my life, have done, who those 6 are. But I always want differences of opinion as well, and that's a piece of advice to viewers and listeners. Don't allow yourself to just blindly think that because somebody is a perceived authority figure and just because they've been successful with other people doesn't necessarily mean that what they offer is 100% right for you. It very well could be, but it might only be 90% right for you. You might need to get that other 10% from some other source, somebody else. And also, it's very healthy, I believe, to be open to differences of opinion. Otherwise, it can have a negative effect on all areas of life because, as we may talk about later, the media is a prime example. If you start to believe the message is all from one direction, you will just get bogged down in stress and depression and stuff. So do something. It doesn't have to cost anything, as I've just said. And it doesn't have to cost, Rex will kill me for saying this, but this applies to my books as well. Okay. If you've not got a lot of money, that doesn't have to be a barrier to actually getting people's books. Buy them secondhand on eBay or the secondhand option on Amazon till you get your life together. And then down the line, if you feel that you want to karmically, buy a full price copy and gift it to somebody so that the author ends up getting the royalties, do that. But do something is the key. I keep seeing over here. I want to answer do I think mental health? I
want to go back to that, but I have to take a pause right here.
Okay.
Before I do, I just want to say that one of the take advantage of what Jonathan has just said. He has his free offering, and if you do what it says, if you follow the instructions, you're guaranteed. You're guaranteed to have some results that you're going to like and that are going to blow you away. So. Thank you, Jonathan, for saying that. We have to take a moment here for the Los Angeles Tribune. So everybody stay tuned. Jonathan will be right back. And I want to thank everybody who's tuned in and watching. Jonathan is going to answer the question that was up a little while earlier. And thanks for your comments. Keep commenting and keep asking questions. And with that, we'll go to the LA Tribune now.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Since 1886, our name has been a part of the world of journalism. We've earned a reputation for being a publication that practices integrity, authenticity, and responsibility. For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And we're back with Mr. Jonathan Royle. And I hope you're enjoying this because I sure am. And, you always add value and you always bring provocative thought. And I want you to go ahead and answer the question. Then we should talk about, the media and propaganda because there's a lot of propaganda inside the self-help field. There's propaganda from the media. There's propaganda from your friends. I mean, it is important to understand that there are those who would like you to believe a particular way. And we'll talk about that afterwards. He said, would he say mental illness is the result of trauma?
Not always, because obviously there is sometimes, albeit I would say it's in the minority, there are occasions where there are biological, organic brain issues that can trigger things off. But in the vast majority of cases, yes, I do truly believe that the vast majority of mental illness at its heart is the result of trauma. But the word trauma implies, it's a very powerful emotive word, and it implies it's like that title, post-traumatic stress disorder. It sounds like, they've suffered really bad. It implies sexual abuse. It applies domestic violence. It applies suffering a car crash, being, really high-end stuff. And the truth is, it could be something that happened when an individual, more often than not, I find in therapy, more often than not, individuals' problems stem from something that happened in the childhood, from birth to roughly teenage years. I know that Sigmund Freud, I should say, said the formative years were 0 to 7, but I think it's more birth to teenage and then we freeze. Along that path somewhere, we react, the way we react is in the childlike state. And now as adults, looking at those situations, it wouldn't seem like a particularly traumatic thing from an adult conscious point of view. but it can have been locked in place during the childhood formative years. Their reactions, emotional reactions, in a way at the time that felt to the child that what I can only fall back on that word is traumatic, upsetting. And it kind of gets frozen in time like a photo snapshot and goes into the filing cabinet of the brain, the unconscious, subconscious mind. So that when situations later in life, activating agent, trigger, comes along, the brain naturally goes to pattern match and look through the filing cabinet of the mind and pulls out the closest thing it can relate to. And if what it's finding is something that was frozen in time, that's got like big warning lights on it, this was upsetting, avoid, don't want to go on here, or that makes me upset, then it's going to cause those kinds of underlying psychological reactions, and they're going to manifest somehow. And for some people, they will manifest as symptoms of trying to put up a smoke screen and becoming a smoker, or trying to drown it away by drinking too much. Others, it's drugs to literally escape it. For other people, it just manifests by their internal voice talking negatively to them all the time. There's so many ways it can, but they're just labels. At the end of the day, they're just symptoms. And I found massively that one of the processes I use with clients on a one-to-one basis when they do come to see me is that I give them a pillow or one of these big massive scatter cushions to hold on to while their eyes are closed and they're in the relaxed hypnotic state. And I tell them that in a moment when I give you this cushion or pillow, it's going to be almost as if in your mind's eye you can imagine that is the mini you. And you won't know how you know, but you'll instantly find yourself in your mind back at the age when the mini you experienced things that at the time were upsetting and got frozen and of course negative knock-on effects since that you weren't even consciously aware of. And it's time for us to go and give the mini you the feeling of safety and reassurance and strength that they really needed at that time that they didn't get. And I'll take them through this process where they've got their eyes closed and they're hugging the pillow or the cushion. And then I'll tell them basically it's kind of an element of the Hawaiian love ritual, Ho'oponopono. I can never say it right, so I apologize for those who can say it right. And I'll get them to say to that inner child or imagine them at that time, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And then I'll get them to imagine the mini them saying the same thing back to them, kind of in the context of apologizing for having held them back in life. And then I'll get them to imagine, which is easy to do because they can sensory do it with the pillow and hugging each other and saying, it'll be okay now. We're both free. And more often than not, this will lead to an emotional release. Some might call it an abreaction. I prefer just to call it an emotional release of crying. But I always find without fail that the client feels like a massive weight's been lifted off their shoulders afterwards. And it's like they've become unstuck because that now is no longer going to bother them. When a trigger comes into place, that would have normally found that filing card that was locked in that reaction, it won't be there anymore to react that way. So they've got to start to develop a new behavior, a new reaction, because it's impossible to react the way they did before because the file's not there, if we use the metaphor of the computer. So it only leaves them it does leave them the option to do something negative if they wanted, but it's highly unlikely when they've gone through an important process like that they're going to not take the opportunity to do the right thing. And generally speaking, mental illness is people being labelled. DSM-5 is the biggest work of fiction on the planet. If you get a copy of DSM-4, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Illness and Disease, and get number 4 and number 5 and look at them, they've got different descriptions for what certain labels are. And the reason is purely and simply motivated by greed of they found a more profitable drug to be able to prescribe if they could say that there were other symptoms. And it's voted on by a committee. I have a set of videos called the Royle event. They do sell on one of my websites for $200. However, here's the thing. you can get them free of charge. So rather than going to the magicalguru.com website where it'd end up trying to charge you, if you go to hypnotismexposed.com, free of charge, you can get the 6 hours of video that are the Royle event. And in that, I break down everything about DSM-5, mental illness, the fact that it's just labels. And the labels are the biggest bloody amplification negatively of mental illness, is labeling somebody. Because then they kind of, on the one hand, they feel, oh, finally somebody understands me. So there's a sense of acceptance, which you might say is a positive thing. But also it then stops them searching for an answer because they've been given the answer by the perceived authority figure expert. But here's the thing, follow the money. I'm not saying that the psychiatrists and the psychotherapists who are licensed to dispense drugs are all purposely doing this. But I believe that they are conditioned through their training. They're indoctrinated through their training that you deal with certain things a certain way. And inevitably that involves prescribing drugs. And drug companies are there not to create cures. They're there to create customers. Because if they created cures, boom, no more income from that individual. So, you know, when it's got a mental cause, the best way to actually, I don't want to use the word cure because it's an ongoing journey, as we said earlier, but the best way to end up with a positive outcome is to use psychological tools as well. If it's of the mind, the cause, it should be of the mind, the cure.
Awesome. Well, let me because we're talking about the DSM-5 and 4 and earlier versions. If you look at the earlier versions, you can see how it evolved and how it's changed and how it's become.
And some of it's been changed politically.
Well, I was going to, yeah.
Such as your gay, your gender stuff, and sexuality and stuff. When the public started to kick off and go, yay, whoa, you know, you shouldn't be sending people for conversion therapy and all this kind of thing. Suddenly they changed the definition of meaning of things in DSM.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and as you rightly said, it's political and it's profit driven, and there's a whole lot of reasons behind it. Now, here's where I'd like to segue, because we mentioned about, you know, propaganda in the media.
Yeah.
But there's propaganda in the field of psychology and psychiatry and medicine, and, you know, and in banking and finance. I mean, as well as the media. So let's
everything.
Right. I mean, so let's turn our attention a little bit toward that, because I know that this is an area that, you know, concerns you greatly. And I appreciate everything that you said. I love talking with you, and I'm glad that you're on the show, and you're adding so much value to the guests, the people who are watching and listening. I said guests, but I mean the viewers who are watching and listening. So thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, every single area of our life and every industry as well. In terms of, let's look at industries first. So yeah, self-help industry, plumbing, entertainers, celebrity, it doesn't matter. Every area of everyday life, career choices, whatever. There is elements of propaganda because society as a whole is structured by the powers that be. And who those powers that be are, I'm not going to go into now because I cover it in my documentary, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, which you can watch free of charge at magicalguru.com by clicking on Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. But the people who truly control the world, and this is an invisible government. I'm not on about prime ministers or presidents that you can see. I'm on about these people are hiding the shadows. They pull the strings. They tell the media what to print. They influence every policy. They're more powerful than the people who sit on the Trilateral Commission and Bilderberg groups and all this, that, the other. These people steer society so that they can remain in control by making the vast majority of human beings who fall for it aspire to always want more. That the grass is always greener on the other side type of thing. So they want more money, they want a better car, they want designer clothing, and the messages they get through the media, television, films, also, you know, the celebrities on the red carpet. It's all about creating this desire in people that they want more, they want what they see, so that they will spend more money and end up borrowing money. Quite often people getting into debt so that they can feel that, you know, they'll live in places where the mortgage is costing them so much they've got very little money left to pay for food. They're going to food banks and charities to get food, but it's all been engineered that way, because then these people remain at the bottom of the ladder, so to speak. And the real powerful people, yeah, there's different levels, but the majority are at the bottom because of the way society is. Then you've got people who are the managers and the people who employ them, they're above. And then you've got your millionaires, they're above. But everything from birth is about controlling people. Example, you go to school, okay? And unless you come from an incredibly wealthy background where you go to a fee-paying private school and such like, where you do get educated, as it were, fully specifically to you as an individual that's best for you. Generally speaking, you go to school and you get taught things, and then you get put through exams, and you get rewarded when you correctly answer the questions by recalling what you were taught and repeating it. So what you're getting conditioned, indoctrinated into through the education process is to listen to authority figures, listen to authority figures, take on board what they say unquestionably, store it in your mind, remember it, then recall and repeat. And you're getting conditioned. And the repetition of this then makes you do the same when you go and get a job. Do what the boss said. And once you've left school, you're in a state of mind where you are effectively a sleepwalking zombie.
I want to interrupt you because what you're saying is so incredibly valuable for people. People would think that what they're being propagandized in is in the content of the stuff that they're remembering and that they're being tested on. But it's not that they're being propagandized in. They're being programmed into responding in particular ways to authority and to, you know, so that they buy into a reward-based system. And so you do the bidding of those people. I mean, this is that's what's so typically lost on people. They think that propaganda means, you know, I'm telling you this thing.
It can be that sometimes, but
well, true.
But the deeper, more powerful thing is the structure and the process and the manipulation of your environment and your reaction to the environment. You know, with that school example, it's they tell you stuff, the perceived authority figure, you've got to remember it, recall it, repeat it, and you get into that brainwash process. These days, one of the biggest, if you like, negative hypnotist propaganda things is your phone, social media. You know, you go on social media, and I won't, because then it might upset whichever social media I logged into, so I won't do. But you go on your social media, and the first thing, people get addicted to seeing, has anyone liked my post yet? How many comments has it got? It actually fires off a dopamine rush in the brain, or enhance serotonin, the feel-good chemicals, because, oh, somebody's liked my post. Or if somebody says something negative on your post, it can put you on a downer for the entire day, if you allow it to, that is. Because obviously you can, what we call in NLP, break state. You can educate yourself through repetition not to react in that manner. But they manipulate the algorithms on social media purposely. And there's a great documentary on this, The Social Network, on Netflix, well worth watching. And they purposely manipulate the algorithms so that you will spend more time on social media, which makes them money through advertising, by the whole liking a post or making sure they leave it till certain times of the day when they know that people will be more influenced to make more people see your posts, so you're more likely to get likes at that time of the day, so that you're more likely then to suddenly be fired into a great state of mind that while you're on social media, you're more likely then to click on the advert that you see go past that's been targeted at you. It's a massive industry. It's all about manipulating you emotionally and psychologically. And every area of your life, education, it's not just that, but politics is a control system. If anything good actually came out of us voting, okay, they wouldn't allow us to vote on it. It's an illusion of choice. It doesn't matter if this party gets in or this one. At the end of the day, the people above them, the invisible government I spoke about, and the power people behind the scenes will end up telling them what to do. And whatever promises they made during the elections will get fudged if that's not in line with what the real powers that be actually want. You've just got to look at the history of politics around the world to see the truth in that.
I'm going to tell you that facetiously, but I say that the people who are running the planet are the parking lot owners. The reason I say that is because who has ever met someone who owns a parking lot? They're almost invisible. They get massive repeatable income every day, and they control a large portion of wealth. But you and I hardly, if ever, meet somebody who goes, "Yeah, I own parking lots." So
yeah, true.
Great.
Scott says The Matrix. Yeah, the Matrix films are so much closer to reality, and in fact, conventional science in recent years had actually started to turn around and say, you know what, we kind of do live in a holographic universe.
Well, one of the things, well, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. I want to, but then I
was going to say, and that's good in one respect because it shows that some of the crazy theories out there were as crazy as some people said. But it also has credence to the idea that if we live in a largely holographic universe, in the sense that what we see is only reality to us, which the clues were there before because 12 people could witness the same road accident, but they give 12 different statements. And yet they were watching the same thing. It's down to perception. And that can be both good and bad. The good side is that means that we have more control over things than perhaps we thought. And we potentially have more ability to make things better than the powers that be would want us to realize, which is why they try to keep the nation in a constant state of confusion and disorientation, of divide and conquer. They want us to disagree. They have to give different political views and say, vote on this, to give the illusion that the populace have got some control over it, but also so that end up people disagreeing with each other. Because if people were in harmony together, they will be more difficult to control. When they are disagreeing, the powers that be can find the side that's closest aligned to the outcome they want and manipulate them into rebelling against the other people in the divide and conquer situation. It's the same with wars. I cover this in my documentary, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. The American financiers, the Rothschilds and this, that, and the other, funded both sides of every world war.
That's the question. That's a wonderful question from Ava, and what I wanted to point out is that you and I are both hypnotists.
Yeah.
And I would both bet that we both argue it's not hard to put anyone into trance, fast or slow or whatever it is. Our role more is a hypnotist today. I think you would say this absolutely, is to help people wake up.
Yes.
Not to go into trance, because it's the everyday trances that they're living from the powers that be and the influences that are going on and the propaganda that we're all subjected to. So waking people up is far more a crucial or critical opportunity, for those.
Could not agree more, Rex. And that's why the subtitle of my documentary is Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, subtitled, It's Time to Wake the Sleepwalking Zombies Up. Sorry, it's time for the sleepwalking zombies to wake up. Because, that the media is a large part of this as well. There's no saying in the media, and I used to work in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads, which basically means the more horrific, traumatic, criminally insane, war-related, blood-related, the more horrible the story is, the more likely it will sell newspapers, so it goes on the front page. It will take precedent over something that will be a nice uplifting story, because it's about profits. Also, it also has the benefit of helping to instill fear, and I would argue also helping to put people into kind of the freeze state of fight, flight, and freeze. The fight, flight, freeze, or shite scenario is caveman meets dinosaur. I know that's not historically right before people write in. It's just the way I tell the story. I know cavemen, dinosaurs, different time area, but caveman sees dinosaur and suddenly he's frozen. Now, he might fight and be lucky and kill the dinosaur because there's adrenaline that runs in the body and makes the muscles tense, in which case, family eat that night. Or he might suddenly think, this dinosaur, who I've no chance against, so I'll run like the clappers, and because of the muscles being tense, manage to run quicker than normal and get away to live another day. Or he might shit himself, excuse that, but that is actually part of the process, because the idea was it's a natural bodily function, so that hopefully the stench would make the dinosaur want to move away itself. Or quite possibly, and this happens more in everyday life now that we don't have dinosaur situation, freeze state can happen, which is that kind of cat in the headlights moment of, shall I run? Shall I stay? What shall I do? Shall I run? Shall I stay? What shall I do? Shall I run? And it just becomes frozen to the point that quite often it's then just pushed aside and they try and carry on with everyday life. But there's a part of the mind still running this, shall I run? Shall I hide? No, I don't know what to do. State of disorientation and confusion that can ultimately will end up manifesting as stress, either psychologically, emotionally, physically, or a combination thereof. And as has been clinically proven, stress that remains long enough can cause negative organic change in the body, aka illness or dis-ease, disease. So this is a very serious thing, and the media, the biggest piece of advice I could give anyone today, other than saying please do go and have a look at, that's it, Bully Malamus. Yes, thank you, Scott. I just always say with caveman and dinosaurs, but I'm glad you're paying attention. Good man. Yeah, obviously go to magicalguru.com, click on where it says Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, watch my 1 hour, 45-minute documentary. I cover politics, religion, the media, even, the shopping and the high street. Everything has elements of psychology and emotional manipulation used in it to control and manipulate and control you. And it's where that phrase "follow the money" comes from, because generally where the nefarious manipulation comes in is because people want to take either control over you or they want to take money off you, or a combination thereof. And because it's happened from birth and your parents got so conditioned to it, they're blind to it. You're blind to it because you grew up with it. You take a couple of steps back, invest an hour and 45 minutes into yourself to watch the documentary. Some of it, I guarantee, you'll sit there and you'll say to the screen, that's nonsense. And you will say it at the time. But when you say it, realize that as you're saying it, you feel a bit conflicted inside as you say it's nonsense, because deep down, what will be manifesting is what's known as cognitive dissonance. This thing that deep down in your heart, in your gut, you'll know what's in that documentary is true. But because to admit that, you have to admit you spent so much of your life being programmed, conditioned, manipulated to control. And others saying, part of me is scared to wake up. What does one awakened person do? One awakened person does nothing more than enjoy their life from a position of being able to ignore the propaganda of going, you know what? I'm not even going to buy a newspaper, let alone read it. I'm going to control which sources I look for my news. And I'm also going to make the intelligent decision of looking at least two different differing opinions. I will look at a mainstream media opinion, but under controlled. It's free these days online. Don't waste money. And know that there's going to be the majority of it from the mainstream media will be lies. There will just be a tiny element of truth. And I say that as someone who used to work as an undercover journalist for newspapers, and I saw it from the inside. And I cover this. In fact, I've got an entire website called circusofthemind.net. That's CIRCUSOFTHEMIND, circusofthemind.net, where I expose how the media consistently lie, manipulate, and create completely fabricated stories. Not all of them, but at that site I do name names. I won't name them here because, you know, I at least on my site, I'm taking full legal responsibility for anything that I'm claiming, but I do back it up fully with evidence, including the fact that I'm currently taking legal action against one of the world's biggest media owners and moguls, who owns around a quarter to a third of the world's television, radio stations and newspapers. And that's because I learned from the inside that it's nonsense. They're not interested in reporting the truth. What they're interested in is controlling people for their paymasters above them, who want to keep people subdued and under control. And when you realize that, then you will move away from the negative programming. And the same with your television set in the corner of your living room. Nothing wrong with having a TV, but don't just stick it on and have it going while you're having your dinner. Eat consciously. That'll help you lose weight, by the way. Turn off the telly, eat consciously, start to enjoy the flavour of the food, chew it a bit more, and you'll notice when you actually feel satisfied, you'll start to learn your body signals again. And that'll actually help you start losing weight. But aside from that, the thing is, you won't just then be taking things in, because when your conscious mind is focused on eating, for example, also it gets so involved emotionally because there's emotions connected to eating, that your critical faculty, analytical area of your mind, so-called gatekeeper, the doorman as I call it, can be distracted by this because of the, oh, it's my favourite food or whatever, or I'm really, then all this nonsense that's coming from the telly isn't getting any critical filter. It's just going in, and it's no wonder people end up feeling depressed, feeling down or despondent or like there's no hope. Take control. One of the easiest ways to take control is to go, you know what? I will choose what is on that screen. Record programs that you actually truly want to watch. And then when you do, and maybe leave it a couple of days without watching any telly so you can get a bit of an archive of stuff you've recorded. And then as you're recording stuff, you'll always be a bit ahead. And choose, right now, this is my television time, and watch something that you've recorded. That way you can fast forward through the adverts. So you're avoiding the sales programming. That way you don't have to accidentally get encountered by, at least then if you do get any negative message, and you will still get some, of course you will. But at least there'll be ones that you've inflicted upon yourself rather than ones that have been inflicted upon you. Things will never be perfect, but you can at least make them a hell of a lot better by taking some responsibility for yourself and starting to take control. So, you know, forget buying the papers. Choose what you're actually going to feed in here, into your mind. If you feed your body crap, junk food all the time, every meal of every day, of every week, you're going to shorten your life dramatically. Super Size Me, the film, watch that. That'll give you a great example of how bad it would be for you. It's the same with our minds and our emotions. If you're constantly feeding it crap, which a lot of people are doing without consciously being aware of it because they are just eating the meal and talking to the family consciously while they're eating about what's happened during there, but the telly's on in the background and it's going directly into their unconscious mind, negative programming. Start to take control. And the easy low level that costs you nothing is to think, no, I don't need that on. To choose what you're feeding into your mind, because it is like a garden. If you fill it full of weeds, you get negativity and destruction. You fill it with positivity as much as possible, and you are far more likely then for things to flourish and it to become a world of beauty, or at least enable you to be a person who becomes strong enough within as a human being to perceive things with beauty and positivity. Because at the end of the day, we do create our own realities.
Awesome. I so appreciate you. We are out of time, but you have added so much to the awareness to this conversation, to this topic that people can investigate. They need to go. You've given us 3 different websites. So if they've scrolled across the bottom in some cases, but if they need anything else, they can always go back and rewatch this program.
Indeed.
Plus, they can share it. They can comment on it in the replay. They can like it. They can do whatever in terms of how they can get the word out and how they can
and please do, if you go to magicalguru.com, across the top there's all the links to my different social medias. If you connect up with me on Facebook and where I will have this video shared, obviously when the replay is there, if you comment underneath the video, I will. If you've got questions, it might take me a day or 2 to see them all, but I will happily respond back to people.
So I want to give you your closing words. You take a couple of minutes and whatever you'd like to leave people with. Okay. I want to give that to you, and then when you're done, we'll say goodbye, and then I'll close out the show. But thank you so much for this. This is a very
thank you, Rex. I think I'd like to leave people with this thought. Obviously, there's the documentary you can go to at magicalguru.com and click on Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. And there's a whole bunch of free stuff there as well on the tab that says free stuff. To discover the truth about how the media lie to you, it's circusofthemind.net. And for those free videos about mental health and the placebo effect and whatnot, it's hypnotismexposed.com. Well, just remember this. However much sometimes in life you may have that imposter syndrome where you don't feel good enough or you doubt yourself. And this is a rather crude way I'm going to say it, but it's true. And hopefully it'll create a mental image then that it'll stick in and motivate you. There's 2 things to remember. Number 1, comfort zones are never good. You would think that people would do things to get more pleasure into the life, and they don't. What people are more likely to do is do whatever they can to move away from severe pain. So actually, the best way of moving forward in your life is to leave your comfort zone as much as possible so that you feel some short-term pain, and I don't mean physical pain, it's just short-term uncertainty. But as long as you've already planned it in advance, keep it short and simple and think it through, kiss a tit. Think it through so you've got a plan, because loads of people, nobody plans to fail, but many people do fail to plan. And you do things such as go and get Rex's book, okay? Go Amazon, get his book. It'll tell you in there how to map out your plan. And to do that, you will have to leave your comfort zone. And because you're going to have to leave your comfort zone, make it as painful as possible for you to remain in the comfort zone. And that way it will push you out of the comfort zone. And the other thing to remember is this. We are all, generally speaking, the same. We all piss and shit the same. I'm sorry to be crude and vulgar, but the fact is even the Queen and presidents and leaders of everywhere in the world have to go to the toilet for number 1s and number 2s. Nobody's better than anyone else. People act as though they are sometimes. And yeah, don't get me wrong. They may be better at you at certain things, but that doesn't bloody matter, because if we're all excellent at the same thing, then nobody would have a career to go into, because we wouldn't need the services of somebody else. You have your own strengths, and you will find them. If you haven't found them yet, you will find them. And when you do, concentrate on them, enjoy the uniqueness of you. My final word is this. There's only one person you should ever do a take action hypnosis recording. Effectively, there is one free, that virtual session on the therapy page of magicalguru.com will do exactly that for you. You've got to take action. The only person you should ever be in competition with is yourself to become an even better you. It doesn't matter what your next door neighbour's doing. It doesn't matter what the other person at work's doing. You, because you're special. You're worth it. Doesn't matter what other people are doing. As long as you know within yourself you're giving your best. If you don't reach the heights of superstardom in your industry, it doesn't matter. As long as you can sleep sound in the knowledge that you've given your best against yourself as the challenge, not against other people.
That is beautiful, Jonathan. I'm so glad that you've been here and that you shared your wisdom with the viewers, and that they have a way of reaching out to you. Plus, they have a way of tuning into your documentary and into your programs so that they can help change their lives. And I really appreciate you for sharing all of this with us and with them. So
thank you for having me on. It's been great fun, and thank you for the people who've tuned in. And in advance to anyone else watching the replays, please share it far and wide. And don't forget, also, aside from the stuff I've said, it'll all be a whole bunch easier for you. If you've not already got it, you should have done by now if you've been watching Rex's show. But if you haven't already, go to Amazon, type in his name, get the book, do it.
Thank you. I love you. Thanks so much for that. I will see you in a couple of minutes, but thank you as I close out the show. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everyone, for there's my book. That's awesome. Okay. Well, take the book away for a second. I'll talk about the book in a moment, but I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the people behind the scenes here at the Los Angeles Tribune who do so many incredible things to bring this show to you. I want to thank Mo Rock and the Los Angeles Tribune and Dr. Natalie Forrest for making this avenue, this show possible so that I can have a show and bring such fabulous people like Jonathan Royle to you and into your own homes or wherever you are. So I'm very grateful for that. And I want to thank the Los Angeles Tribune and the team who supports this show. Thank you so very much. And I want to thank you for tuning in, for watching every Thursday at the same time, 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and wherever else is in your local time zone around the world. That is when we live stream. The show is recorded. The replay is available afterwards. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Twitch, Twitter, Periscope, somewhere else, and Roku TV. So be sure to tune in each Thursday for a new guest, a new show of All Things Rex Worldwide. And with that, yes, my book is Life on Your Terms. If you do go to Amazon and you happen to get the book, and you go to my website, which is rexsikes.com, you can find out about the programs that we have, ongoing programs. So right now, we've got the Neurolinguistic Programming Ultimate NLP Home Study course that if that interests you, you can enroll in, and it's absolutely worthwhile. But the book, if you go to rexsikes.com/book, take your receipt from Amazon for the softback or the hardcover book. Stick it in the box at that web address down below that's scrolling. And I'll give you a $497 valued training on mastery, on how we master our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and any skill or talent that you want to be able to learn so that you can be able to get the kind of results that you want in your life. So with that, again, I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for the Tribune. I'm so grateful for Jonathan Royle for being here and sharing his wisdom and his expertise with us. Thank you so very much. All right. And as I always say, if you consider, something a problem, it's going to be a problem. If you consider something a blessing, it can be a blessing. And with that, keep in mind that you can celebrate everything. See you next time.